I might just mix that into this part. So that was weird. The recording seemed to end for no reason. So, just a little bit of controls, preferences, brightness, right? Basically, we're going to be playing The Longing today. It's a very interesting game. Deep, deep beneath the earth, there lay the realms of an old king. And I'll do a little bit more explaining about this game and what I know of it and things of that nature a little bit after the intro sequence here. So you can see clearly we're in a cave, that's what we know. And there's an old king, the realm of an old king. And we'll just sit here for a little bit. We'll listen to the music. I love the music in this game. Here's the king. He has created life, it seems. And we have our character. My powers have faded. All I have left is you, my faithful shade. All I ask of you is to wait and never to leave these caves. I shall now sleep for 400 days to gather my remaining strength. Wake me when the time has come to end all fear and longing. So, we are a coal creature, a homunculus creature of coal, crafted by the king, with glowing yellow eyes, and given a task to wait in our home. And we have our shade. So, this is my house, a nice place to spend the next 400 days waiting. And so we have our home. We can draw a very cool drawing. We have 2 pages here, and we have one of potentially 5 colors unlocked, which we can draw different pictures. We have a small little bookshelf that we can read from. So, you guys might be wondering, what is The Longing, right? It's a game where you can read the entirety of Moby Dick in your own personal library deep within the caves. But of course that's not the only thing that this game is. Right? All 1,000... Well, this is not really pages. This is like individual pages. So I think Moby Dick is 600 pages. This is just each individual side. I'm not sure if that means that the Moby Dick is 300 pages, or, you know, the math is a little bit interesting. So here we can draw, we can read books. Over there in the corner is our little fireplace. And here's a musical instrument here. You will need to find all 4 to craft an instrument. So, what are we doing? We are waiting for the king. That's all we're doing right now. We're just waiting for the king to wake up. Oh, interesting. I think the king will allow me to explore his vast realm, but I better remember the way back. Using this, we can remember different places. So, going here, we can decide to remember certain locations, such as the king and his quarters. And we can attempt to awaken the king, although this does not work. The 400 days have just begun. The king is still sleeping. I have to wait. I have to stay in his cavernous realm and wake him once the time has come. And now, we have to ascend the stairs to the rest of the cave. So let me double click up here so that way I don't need to hold it. There is no need to hurry. I have plenty of time to wait, to walk. It's true. 400 days is quite a long time. So this game is clearly made by Studio Swefts, I believe is how you say their name, but it is a indie game developed with a very interesting concept, in my opinion, and a very fascinating art style. I really like these stairs, he says. Very nice. I like these stairs too. So, this game is extremely slow-paced by design. It is not much of a game, in a sense. It is, I would say, more of a visual novel of it than anything else. I see something lying on the ground. Pick up. A lump of coal. I will keep you safe, my little brother. We are a creature of coal with soot-black skin, left to explore a vast realm. And here we find a door. What shall we do about this? Enter door. The door hasn't opened in a long time. It might take a while. Well, so it'll be open very shortly, but we don't have to wait here for it to open, do we? We don't know how long this is going to be. So, let's take a walk back. So this game, I have played it before. You can see that the door is beginning to slowly crack open, but I'm not too worried about that right now. I want to return back to my room because I have plenty of books to read, right? So I have played this game before, and it really resonated with me. And when I tell people that this game is one of my favorite games, or if I recommend it to people who are a fan of puzzle games or anything like that, it's always sort of difficult to explain why, and it's also kind of a difficult game to recommend to play because you can see that the gameplay loop is somewhat simple, but the main gimmick of this game is rather interesting, and it provides a lot of insight into life, in my opinion. And I find it very interesting, this concept of having a longing, you know. I feel like we can all relate to that. We can all relate in one way or another. We might not be waiting 400 days just to wait for somebody to wake up. That might not be what we're doing, but we could have all kinds of longings in our personal life. I know that this game I played this game during COVID, the COVID pandemic. We were in lockdown. And that was kind of a tough time for a lot of people, myself not so much, but it did interrupt my middle school. I never really got to go to a high school, like a real high school, because of COVID. And I think about that a lot. In this game, we kind of relate to the Shade in a way. He's just sort of stuck. The king warned me that I should never leave these caves. I wonder what exactly he meant by that. This room could use a little warmth from time to time. Looks like we're gonna need 2 pieces of flint and 5 pieces of coal to start a fire. Interesting. Well, let me introduce you guys to the main gimmick of this game, which I find to be very, very funny. So I'm going to flip through the pages of Moby Dick, and I want you guys to see if you can realize what changes when I do this. Just pay attention to the screen, and just see if you can notice anything being different. Did you see it? The time just went down by nearly 20 minutes. Interesting, no? My favorite implication of this, how the time flies. I should be reading more. The implication is that our perception of time is progressing slow and steady. Slow and steady. Our perception of time is similar, but also different than him. But in a lot of ways, we'd experience time in a similar way. If you're reading a book that you enjoy, and you're enjoying it, it's like time can go by very, very immediately, you know? Even if I'm playing this game, it can seem like, you know, oh, I've already been making this video for 10 minutes. That's crazy. It doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean. That's how that sort of thing, where it's just like, wow, time is really going by. Especially if you're like staying busy at school or at work. You're like, man, this day has just gone by so fast. But if you're sitting, you're not really doing anything. It can seem like time has slowed down. That can be a good thing and a bad thing. If you're always if you're always going, it can feel like your life slips away rather quickly. So there's an argument to be made that it's important to calm down and just reflect every once in a while and not overstimulate yourself, right? Because the Shade, his perception of time is influenced by how many things he's interacting with at a single time, whether or not he's making music, whether or not he's reading, you know, things like that. And it's important to the puzzle of the game, right? The fact that we have to wait for things to happen, different methods of speeding up time will help us. So like, for example, the door is completely open now. Maybe it was only going to take a few minutes to open up anyway. Right? Maybe I didn't have to do that, but I thought I might. As well. Just so that way we could go back. And one of the funniest implications of this, in my opinion, is that the Shade read and processed those 20 pages of that book at that speed. This seems like a great place to be lonely. I better remember the way. It is continuing to let us know that we should absolutely be remembering these locations so that we can walk back to them later. And the intention is actually, in my opinion, rather funny. The intention is that we can remember a place, walk to it, and then leave the computer and come back later, maybe when he has gotten to that location. That's the idea. Which is, I find, very funny. He has to walk and we have to wait. There really is no way to walk faster. Taking a stroll in these magnificent halls sure is a fulfilling occupation. I could, walk behind me and pick up that piece of coal, but I'm not gonna do that. That would be quite a long walk. So you could see that there were no less than 4 different possibilities for us to go, and now there's branching pathways over here as well, so the depth of these caves is... I should talk to myself more often. That's extremely relatable. See, these caves seem very vast and very interesting. Even in the background here, you can see that there are paths that traverse to different areas and, Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Sorry, so I've played through this entire game. The paths in the back are actually mean something, I'm pretty sure. Which we'll get to later. I just put 2 and 2 together that the paths in the background actually relate to something later in the game. Wow, that is actually incredible. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that until just now, but like I said, there's these caves are pretty big. You're just walking around, and I think it's an interesting game. And it's a puzzle game, right? We haven't really gotten to the puzzling part of this game just yet, but this should be our first major obstacle right here. This door should lead to the library, but it is blocked from the other side. I will add this event to my list of disappointments. I now have 1 disappointment. This will help us later, having these disappointments, actually. So, our shade here, he enjoys reading and drawing, right? We all have our own ways of coping with how to pass the time when we can. And sometimes I'm sure it feels like our sole occupation, our sole concern in life. And yes, loneliness is real, it is true. Sometimes I feel like my main goal in life is to spend time, What is your goal in life, That's another question that this game makes you ask. The Shade has a goal. He has a spiritual goal. You could say of duty. He has to wait for the king. There's all kinds of things that we have to wait for. Many of us feel like our goals and aspirations in life... By the way, look, there's a piece of our instrument down there. I know a lot of us feel like our goals and aspirations in life are a little bit more sophisticated than waiting for someone to wake up, but I wonder how true that is. I wonder if our goals and aspirations are any different. The Shade says, I have never understood life. And that's okay. None of us have been alive for as long as we think we have. The Shade was literally born today. And he is stating the obvious. He doesn't understand life. When, in reality, how many of us do? Sometimes I want to stop walking and just sit down to think. This is actually a hint for one of the puzzles in the game. Actually. Which is interesting. these long, winding hallways. I believe this leads back to the main room that we were just in. Yes, it does. You can tell by the different colored pillars. There's all kinds of interesting things that happen here. It's hard to remember all these pathways. I don't remember where they all go. It's been several years since I last played this game. But I do remember this area. Here's a sheet of paper, for example. This sheet of paper will be useful for my art studies. I wonder where it's from. The shade will make many pieces of artwork while he's waiting. As I was saying, a lot of us can relate to the shade. I know I personally can. It might not be whoops. It might not be drawing or reading books, although I do enjoy reading books, but it can be anything that we do to pass the time. Just to feel like we aren't just sitting around doing nothing. Hope the king doesn't mind if I borrow one of his books. By the way, up here you can see that that this brick right here is crumbling. We will want to come back here later because that brick will have fallen and we will have new things in this area. Very, very slight, very, very subtle differences that are hard to catch on your first playthrough. Very small environmental details that are not easy to keep track of. It's sort of hard to play this game and keep it interesting for an extended period of time because it is mostly just walking. Makes me think of how much of our time is spent in commute to different places. I know me personally, and many people, their commute in a day is usually over an hour. Especially if you either live in a far out area or if you live in a city and there's traffic. You can spend a lot of time just getting to places, and sometimes you spend a lot of time getting to places and then you are met with disappointment. It's foreshadowing, by the way. Because this staircase, where does it seem to lead? Oops. Where does the staircase lead? The shade is going to comment on where it leads quite soon. What a meaningless ascent. I now have 2 disappointments. Our shade seems to be struggling a little bit with his mental health. Imagine that. Only being alive for less than an hour and you are already tallying the amount of disappointments that you've had in your life. I think this is a lesson. A lot of us will do this. We will keep track of all the things that have gone wrong in our life. Either mentally or not mentally. We'll just keep a tally of it somewhere. But most of us will do that mentally without really thinking about it. I know I do. Think about, but it's just human nature to think, well, what if I had done this differently? What if I had done that differently? Why is it that the world has to be the way that it is? Things like that. We all think about these things. And what I like about this game is it makes you self-reflective. Like, isn't it kind of silly that he's responding like this? You know? Now we have our first, I suppose you could say, our first waiting puzzle up here. An interesting moment. Jump. This jump is too exciting for my tastes. I better wait for that stalactite to come down first. I guess that could happen in a week. Now our shade is suggesting that instead of making this jump, that we should wait a week. And that is exactly what we will do. If I can get him to, but we should remember this area because we will have to come back here later. And so, our shade will now remember how to make it back to the stalactite. We'll come back here in a week. Interesting. And that's the main gameplay loop. Basically, you have to find things, explore, and then once you find things and explore, I like the smell of earth. You should. As a piece of coal, if you didn't, that might cause problems for you. Because I imagine you would have a very earthy smell. And a piece of paper. Yeah, time passes much differently for the shade, as we can clearly see. Nearly 37 minutes have passed, and I've only been recording for 27. Wish I had someone to talk to, but I can still talk to myself after all. I just need to sit down for a while and sort out all of my thoughts. Indeed we do. This constantly being active and doing things distracts us a lot. That's another message of this game. Things can seem insurmountable and difficult to understand. We might not find the solutions to our problems until we stop engaging with, let's say, something like a book or making music. We might do that too much, in a way. Jump from here? There's moss growing down there. I better wait till there is enough to guarantee a soft landing. I guess it will take about 2 weeks. 1 week for the stalactite to drop, 2 weeks for the moss to grow. See the moss down there? That becomes our primary objective now. Finding these things, our exploration has to be halted. But we have uncovered a new book to read, and we still have Moby Dick after all. It's a very long book. So, I will continue my walk home, back to the cave, and we'll just go back there and readjust, reassess what we want to do. I think that's a good plan. We've uncovered a lot of things in just an hour of our shade's life. We have uncovered many things, very, very interesting things. And he might be alone alone in this journey, but we don't have to be. And hopefully he won't be alone forever. Yep.